Hello soulmate, you're welcome back to my YouTube channel. If this is your first time of seeing my channel, thank you for stopping by. If you're a returning subscriber, thank you for watching. So in this tutorial, I'm going to be learning how to make this stylish gown with side gathers and a little bit of gathers at the bust area. So if this one is what you're interested in, please join me while we get started. Okay, so on your pattern paper, which should be on a fold, from the top you're going to draw a line which is going to be your starting line or your shoulder line. From there you're going to measure your shoulder to bust. Mine is 9.5, shoulder to under bust 13 inches, shoulder to waist 16 inches, and shoulder to the hip 24 inches. So the distance between my waist and hip is just 8 inches. So I'm going to also mark the same thing at the other side so I can connect this with a straight line. Okay, so after doing that, I'll just go ahead and label it bust line, under bust, waist, hip, and then the full length. Okay, so the full length, I'm using 40 inches for this. Okay, so now I'm going to come to the shoulder line and measure the shoulder measurement divided by 2. Mine is 14, divided by 2 is 7. I came down from that point by 1 inch and I mark my armhole depth, which is 7 inches, and that is my bust measurement divided by 6 plus 1.5. So from that point became my chest line. I drew a straight line there and labeled it. So from the neckline, from the shoulder line rather, I'm going to mark my neck width and neck depth of 3 inches on both sides. Then from that 3 inches width, I connected it to the 1 inch I came down from the shoulder, which I'm going to use to draw my shoulder slope. So from the armhole depth, I took the midpoint and came in by 0.5. Then I marked my bust measurement divided by 4 on the chest line, and I connected these points together like this to get my armhole curve. So now I'm trying to determine the neckline for this. I came from the shoulder area and I marked 2 inches. From the armhole area I came in by 0.25, and towards the chest line I marked 1.25. That's what I'm trying to connect with my curve like this. So you can use your free hand to get this. Okay, this is how the neckline is going to be. So we are not using the previous one we marked. So I'm going to take my bust pan, which is my nipple to nipple measurement divided by 2. I marked it on the bust area, under bust, and in the waist area. I'm just going to mark 0.5 on both sides of the waist, and I'm going to connect it to the bust area like I'm doing. So I'll just use my marker to make this very visible. So I'm not going to be taking a dart around the hip area. That's why I did not extend the dart to that side. Okay, so I'm going to take my body measurement, my bust measurement divided by 4, that is 33 divided by 4. I marked it and add 1.5 inch for seam allowance. The under bust, I took the measurement, added the dart allowance there, and I added 1.5 inch for seam allowance. For the waist as well, my waist measurement 26 divided by 4, I imputed it, added the that allowance, and then I add 1.5 inch allowance. Then from the hip area, I marked the hip measurement divided by 4 and added the seam allowance of 1.5 as well. So I went ahead to connect the chest line to the waistline, but I did not connect it to the hip. This is because I'm going to be slashing it out. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to avoid that is I'm trying to close the dart. I don't want to be having that allowance or joining in my dress. So I'm trying to eliminate any form of that there. That is what I'm trying to do right now. So I'm just going to slash it out. Okay, so you just have to watch very well to understand this. Now from the waist area, because there's a dart there, I don't want to be taking a dart here, so I'll just mark the waist measurement divided by 4, add 1.5 inch for seam allowance only. Then I'm going to connect it to the hip. So the measurement I have on the hip area, I'm also going to be imputing it on the full length, and then I'm going to connect it together like that. So once I'm done with this, I'm just going to keep this aside and work on the upper bodies. So now for this part, I'm going to come down from the bust area by 1.5, which is the difference between my shoulder to waist in front and shoulder to waist in back for my bust dart. And then after that, I'm going to come up from the chest line by 0.5. Okay, so because of the neck region, I'm going to come up a bit because I don't want it to be too low. So after that, I'm just going to connect it and connect it with the curve towards the edge like that. So after that, I'm just going to cut out the neckline. I'm just going to cut it out. Okay, so after doing that, I'm just going to open the pattern, transfer what I have on one side to the other side. Then after transferring it, I noticed that the labeling I've removed, that I've cut it off. So I'm just going to go ahead and label it so that when I'm working on it, I don't make mistake. Then after that, I'm just folding it on the other side again. Then I'm going to come to the bust area and come down by 1.5 inches. Then I'm going to connect it to the under bust at the side. Watch what I'm doing. From that 1.5 inch at the bust, under the bust, connect it to the under bust line at the side like this. Then after connecting this, I'm just going to slash it out. I'm going to cut it out. Okay, like I said before, I'm trying to eliminate all the darts because I don't want to be putting dart and I don't want to be having any joining. That's why I'm doing this. Okay, so I just took one part, that is the lower part, and I cut it off, that is from the side, one side of the dart, and closed it. That is, I'm closing the dart. So I'm using my tape to secure it there. I'm going to also do the same thing for the other side. I'm going to cut it out from this side and use it to close the dart like this. So after closing it, I'm just going to keep this aside. Then I'm going to bring the upper part. Then I'm also going to cut out the dart from that side, but I'm not going to cut it out entirely, just a little bit. Then I'm going to come to the bust dart area and cut that side a bit. Make sure you don't cut it entirely. So I'm going to close the dart from the down, and I'm also going to cover it with my tape just to secure it. And I'm going to repeat the same thing for the other side, cutting it from the side and cutting the bust dart, the lower part, and then using it to close the dart which is at the lower part. Then I'll secure it with the tape as well. Okay, so once I've gone ahead to secure it, I'm going to slash it from the center. I'm just going to divide it from the center. So I'm going to take one part of it like this. You can see that it's equal. I'm just going to take one part of it and then I'm going to connect from that bust line area to meet at the side, following the line. Then I'm going to take another line from that side, just come up a little bit and take another line. So now I'm going to follow that same line I drew for the first side, making sure that I connect it to meet that same line. Then from the other side again, I'm going to take the measurement I have there, mark it, and then connect it as well so that it can be equal. So after taking that line, I'm just going to slash it open from there. Make sure that when you are slashing it, you don't cut it out entirely. Just slash it till it gets towards the end. So after that, I'm going to slash the second side too towards the end and secure it well with my tape. So I'll do the same thing for the other side as well. So now I've done that. Then I'm just going to take a piece of paper and put it on top of the paper like this, measuring what I have from the other side where I have my bust dart. I first secure it with my pin so that it will relax well. You can actually use your tape to secure it well. Then I took the measurement I had for the lower part, which was 1.5. Placed the same 1.5 for the other side, that is to ensure that they are both having the same measurement. Then after doing that, I just went ahead to pin it down or use your tape to secure it. So after doing this, I'm just going to use my pencil to trace it out from the side because I don't want any allowance to be added to it. So I'm just going to trace it, then I'm going to go ahead and cut it out. So please, when you're cutting it, you have to be very careful. You can see the way I turned the sleeve, the shoulder area, I turned it down so that it's not going to be adding any paper to it. It's just going to be the paper that I use for the opening. That's the only extra that is going to be there. So I went ahead to cut it out. Then I'll repeat the same thing for the other side as well. So now I've done that. This is what we have. So that area that was slashed and open is going to be where the gathers will be. This is how it's going to be for the upper part of the dress. So I'm going to come to the other side, which is the skirt area. So now you can see that after closing the dart, it matches with the waistline from this part. So we can now go ahead from there. I don't want to be using any dart. So now I'm just going to come down from the waistline by 2 inches from the side, and then from the center I'm going to mark 4 inches. From that 4 inches I'm going to come up by 2 inches. So now the same 4 inches I had there, I'm going to go ahead and mark it at the full length area, then connect it with a straight line from the hip area down to the full length. Okay, so after connecting them, I'm going to connect the part where I came down from the waist by 2 inches to meet that same 2 inches I came up from the hip line, and I'm going to smoothen the curve. So I'm just going to divide what I have at that hip area at the side into 3 equal parts. You can divide it into 4 or 5, whichever you want. My gathers is not going to be so full, that's why I'm not going to be leaving so many allowance, but it depends on you. If you want it to be very full, you can share it and spread it as much as you want, because you're going to be using a slash and spread technique for that. So after this, I'll just go ahead and cut it out. So at this point, if you find this tutorial very helpful, please ensure to give us a thumbs up, like, and leave a comment. You can also subscribe to our YouTube channel so you can always get notified when we upload new videos. Okay, so now we are done with this part and I've already gone ahead to cut it. So for this part, I'm just going to transfer what I have on one side to the other side and label it as well. So now I'm going to work on the back part. We have already marked every part of the dress. Like I've gone ahead to mark the bust points, the underbust, the waistline, every part, and I'm going ahead to label it: chest line, bust line, waistline, hip. So for the back, we are not going to be using underbust, and the shoulder to waist is 14.5 inches. Okay, so at the side I measured 2 inches where I used for my zipper allowance. So from that zipper allowance line is where I'm going to be starting all my body measurements. Okay, so the distance between my waist and hip for the front is 8 inches, and that's the same thing I applied for the back as well. And then I also marked the distance between the hip and the full length, and I marked it at the back as well. So now I measured the nipple to nipple point divided by 2 on the waistline, and I marked it on the bust line and the hip line as well. So from the waist I marked 0.5 inch on both sides and I connected it to the bust. Then from the waist I came down by 4 inches and I connected it to that 4 inches as well. So we're going to be taking the darts directly on the material. Now we're going to impute the body measurements, dividing them by 4 and adding 1.5 inch allowance. So from the waist area I came in from the center back by 0.5 and I connected it up and connected it down to the hip like this. So I'm going to start from that 0.5 inch to mark my body measurements, adding that allowance and adding the seam allowance of 1.5 inches. So I'm going to also mark the hip measurement divided by 4, adding the allowance and taking the exact measurement for the hip to the full length. Then I went ahead to connect them together like this. So after connecting them together, I'm going to be working on the neck design. Just like I did for the front, I came in by 2 inches from the shoulder and I came up by 0.5 inch from the chest line and drew a straight line there. From there I came in by 1.25, but this time around I did not mark 0.25 at the armhole area. I just connected it together because the back design is a bit open. So that was how I got the neckline. So after that I'm just gonna go to the waist area, come down by 2 inches and mark it there. Then from the hip center front I came in by 4 inches, mark it there, and I came up from that 4 inches by 2 inches, exactly what I did for the front. Then I connected them together like this, ensuring that I smoothing off the curve, okay, so it doesn't look sharp. Then I measured what I have at the hip area at the side and divided it into 3 equal parts. Like I said, you can divide it into 4 or 5 depending on how you want your gathers to be. So I went ahead to label it. So at this point I'm done with the back pattern. I'm just going to go ahead and cut it. Okay, so before I cut it, I just went to the side and added 1 inch for the zipper allowance. So you can see me striking out the other line. It means that I'll be working with the new line I marked from inside the waist. So I'm adding 1 inch on all sides round, and I'm going to go ahead and do it to the full length. Then I'm going to connect it with a straight line after marking 1 inch all round. So that's what I'm trying to do right now. So if you notice what I'm doing, you will see that the line is not entirely straight, and that is because the part from the waist was taken in by 0.5, so it has given it a slanted shape. Okay, so after that I'll just go ahead and cut it out. So at this point, if you have any question, please ensure to leave it in the comment section. So after cutting the bodies, I also went ahead to cut this area because I'm going to be slashing it and spreading it on my fabric when I want to cut it. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and take my fabric. This is the fabric I'll be using. This is a vintage crepe and I'm using 2 yards of fabric. So now for the upper bodies, you can go ahead and just cut it all round, leaving half an inch all round, or you can actually go ahead and do this. What I'm trying to do is that I'm trying to close it together because I do not want it to have any joining. Okay, I don't want it to have any joining. That's why I'm doing this, and I'm leaving about 0.25 inch space between the center. That is, from the center I left about 0.25 inch space for the left and the right side of the bust area, as you can see. So I'm just going to go ahead and close it up. I also went ahead to close the waist area like this. This is not necessary. You can go ahead and cut it out, then leave half an inch all round where you'll be joining it. It still works better that way, but this is how I want it to be. I don't want it to have any joining. So I went ahead to place it on my fabric like this, and then I went ahead to cut it. So I made sure I cut it, leaving half an inch around the armhole area, the shoulder, the neck. So at the side, I didn't leave any allowance because I've already added 1.5 inches allowance when I was drafting the pattern. Okay, so now if you look at the bust area, you can see the way I cut it. Then I went ahead to slash it into two equal parts, cutting out the excesses in front. So I just left about 0.25 inch allowance there. Okay, that is where I'll be having my bust. That's where I'll be having my gathers, at that area. So after that, I left half an inch allowance at the side as well. Then towards the hem area, I left 2 inches allowance. So now, like I was saying before, you can cut it out separately on your fabric like this, leaving half an inch allowance all around except the side. Then when you are done, you can join it. When you join the upper part, you join the lower part like this to the waist, and then it will be okay. Now coming to the back, I also went ahead to cut it out, leaving half an inch allowance around except for the side. Then for the hem area, I left 2 inches allowance. Now for the front area, we are going to go ahead and create a gather stitch. You're going to use a loose stitch to stitch around that area at the line, then draw it to give it that gathers, or you use a tiny pleat. Actually, I'm using a tiny pleat because that's how I want it. I want to use a tiny pleat. I'm going to take it to my machine and stitch it. So I've already gone ahead to do that at that point, and this is what it looks like. So you can see the gathers has already come up from that area. Okay, so after doing that, I'm going to be cutting out an interface. Okay, I'm going to be take a piece of the material like this, and I'm going to place the front material right side facing right side like this. Place it properly, ensure it relaxes. So this material I'm using is a vintage crepe, and if you are using this material, you have to be very careful because the material is very silky and it has a tendency of shifting or moving around, so you can always secure it with your pin. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and cut out the material like this. Okay, now what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to cut out an interfacing which I'm going to be using to turn the material. So you can see what I'm doing, tracing it exactly the way it is on the piece of fabric, following the exact shape of the front dress. So I'll just go ahead and cut it out. Okay, so I've gone ahead to cut out that part now because the material is very long. I don't want it to be too long. I just want it to be a little bit below the bust. I'm just trimming it out like that, giving it a little bit round shape. Okay, so now I'm going to lose it. This is what I have when I'm done. So by the time I place my fabric, I'm going to place the interface right side facing each other and stitch around the neck by half an inch, just the neck. Okay, so now for the back piece, I'm also going to cut an interface. I have a pieces where I folded it into two parts. Okay, so the pieces is folded because I want to cut the two sides at the same time. So I just went ahead to pin it down and secure it properly. Like I said, the material is very silky. If you're not careful, you make mistakes. So I just went ahead to trace it out again like that, cutting exactly what I have for the back piece there. So just ensure you do it like this and be careful when cutting it. Okay, so after cutting this part, I just went ahead to bring it out and place it like this. So because it was folded, I had to cut out the down. Okay, now I noticed that it's still long. For the back piece, I don't want it to be very long. It shouldn't be as long as the front. Okay, so I just went ahead to cut it out using a slight curve from one side, that is the side of the dress, not the area that has the zipper. Okay, so after doing that, I'll just take my back piece as well and then place it right side facing right side and stitch only the neck. Now I'm also going to be taking my darts for the back area. For me to get my darts, I'm just going to place a pin from the paper to the material and mark the areas where I have my darts for both sides, and I'm going to take it to my machine and stitch it. Okay, so now look at me placing the interface. You're just going to place it like this, right side facing right side, and stitch just the neck area with half an inch. So I'm going to take it to my machine and do that. So at this point now, I've already done that. I have already fixed my dart. I've already fixed the neck, the interface for the neck. So what I want to show you now is this. You're going to have to take it to the machine and do a top stitch. So you're just going to face the joining towards the interface line. You're going to take the joining, face it towards the interfacing, and do a top stitch on it. I don't know if you understand what I'm saying. You can see I'm trying to show you. You're going to do a top stitch towards the area where you have the allowance, facing it to the interface. Okay, so what I'm trying to do now is to join the shoulder together. So what you're going to do is now is placing the front piece, put the back piece on top of it, right side facing right side. Then take the shoulder area. You know, the shoulder area is going to be having the interface and the joining, so ensure that they match at the center where the joining is. The joining is meeting each other at the center. Then use your pin to secure it. Okay, I think you see it from here now. When you place the back piece, look at this is the front piece which I've already opened, and then I place the back piece right side facing each other, taking the shoulder area like this, placing them right side facing each other. I connected the midpoint together where the joining is, and I'm going to use my pin to secure it like this. So when you secure it and secure the other side, you're just going to take it to your machine and stitch it with 1/2 inch towards the shoulder area like that. You're going to stitch it with 1/2 inch. Okay, so now I've gone ahead to do the stitching, and I also went ahead to give it a good press. I also used my hemming gum towards the neck area to ensure that it sits properly. So that is that. Then now we're going to be joining the sides, that is the allowance, the seam allowance. Then I also went ahead to place the material front and back right side facing each other like this. Then after placing them properly, please ensure that if you are using this type of fabric, you have to be very careful. Then I join it with 1.5 inch. I'm going to join it. Then for the zipper area, you're going to take the back piece like this towards the zipper area, placing them well like this. Then I'm going to take your zipper. I'm using an invisible zipper. I also advise that you use an invisible zipper. Then the zipper is about 24 inches long. Then my zip is going to be stopping at 22 inches. So I'm just going to mark from the neck area to where I have 22 inches, and I'm going to use my chalk to indicate it on the fabric. Then from that point going down, I'm going to mark 1 inch, which is what I use for my zipper allowance. Then I'm going to be joining it by 1 inch from that 22 inches I marked to the hem. Okay, so now at this point I've gone ahead to fix my zipper, and I've gone ahead to join the sides. Okay, so this is what it looks like now. I'm going to be joining the gathers. Okay, so I'm just going to take the measurement I have from the side to the area where the gathers is going to stop. You can see what I measured. What I had there was 4.5. Multiplying it by 2 is going to be 9 inches. So by the time I take my gathers like this, I must make sure that it's exactly 9 inches so that it can stay at that area accurately. So now I'm just removing the papers, and then I'm going to go ahead and pin it round. So for the two sides, remember you have the front and the back. Make sure you follow that pattern. Okay, so for the two sides, I'm going to be joining it straight like that with 1/2 inch. Then for the area where I'm going to be having the gathers, I would advise that you notch the two parts of the area you'll be having the gather, so that when you make your gather stitch there, or your pleats, tiny pleats, whichever one you want to use, you're just going to indicate where it will start and where it will stop. Then for the two sides, which is the front and the back, you're just going to be using a straight stitch to stitch it there. Okay, so now I've gone ahead to do that, and this is what I have. So I have fixed the gathers for one side, and then I've also fixed it for the other side. So remember I told you I don't want my gathers to be too full, and that is why mine is not so full. But if you want your gathers to be very full, please ensure to slash it open very well. In my own, I slash it using 1 inch difference, that is 1 inch spacing. You can increase the spacing to 1.5 inches or 2 inches spacing, whichever way you want it, just to ensure that the gathers is full. Now for the pipe design that I have at the bust area, I took a piece of fabric and I folded it like a bias using my iron. So I went ahead to fold it like a bias, and I'm going to be using it to create that bow tie design that is at the bust area. Okay, so for the sleeve, I have a tutorial where I showed you how to draft a basic sleeve pattern. You can actually use that in my description box to create your sleeve, but I just made a simple sleeve for this dress. Okay, so now you can go ahead and tack the bow design that you want to fix at that bust, tack it there, which is the same thing as the design. Then at this point we are done with this tutorial. So this is the dress, and this is what it looks like. If you find the tutorial very helpful, please ensure to give us a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel, and leave your notification bell turned on so you can get notified when we upload new videos. Thank you for watching. See you guys in my next video.